My mother was probably on his radar, so God knows who was, accused everyone else of doing everything horrible.
Tom Parker Bowles has always maintained a relatively low profile compared to the towering shadows cast by the royal figures in his life. As the son of Queen Camilla and stepson to King Charles III, he has long occupied a curious position, neither fully in the spotlight nor entirely removed from it. But when he recently stepped forward to disclose a deeply personal and unexpected truth about his mother, the revelation sent ripples through both the aristocratic world and the public consciousness. It wasn't just the content of his words that shocked, it was the decision to speak at all. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The revelation concerned a rarely acknowledged aspect of Camilla's life, one that predates her title, her marriage to Charles, and even the public's wider acceptance of her. Long before she was queen, Camilla was a woman who had to navigate complex emotional terrain, a woman marked by choices that would one day be dissected under a microscope. Tom's decision to lift the curtain on that private history did more than stir intrigue. It forced a reconsideration of the person behind the crown, and in doing so, it reshaped the narrative around the British monarchy in unexpected ways. At the heart of his revelation was a humanizing detail about Camilla that struck at the idea of perfection often projected onto royalty. Tom didn't speak with the formal distance of an observer. His perspective came from the inside. A son who had seen his mother not just as a royal consort, but as a flawed, layered, and deeply private individual. He revealed that his mother, despite her polished exterior and royal decorum, had endured periods of profound vulnerability and emotional strain. These weren't the neatly packaged trials of a monarch in waiting. They were raw, messy, and deeply real moments that challenged the long-standing perceptions of who Camilla truly is. His admission peeled back layers of public misconception. For decades, Camilla was cast by some as the interloper in the fairy tale of Charles and Diana. Even as time and royal rehabilitation softened public opinion, vestiges of that narrative lingered. But Tom's revelation offered a rare glimpse into the psychological cost of that prolonged scrutiny. He described a mother who struggled quietly under the weight of societal judgment, whose resilience was often mistaken for indifference, and whose laughter sometimes masked years of emotional erosion. The shocking truth, then, wasn't scandalous in the tabloid sense. It was shocking because it revealed the extent to which a woman, vilified and misunderstood, had suffered in silence. The implications of Tom's words were immediate and far-reaching. Suddenly, conversations about Camilla pivoted. The narrative was no longer about scandal or rivalry. It became a story of endurance. For many, it became impossible to view the Queen without considering the emotional toll her journey had exacted. And within the royal family itself, it raised deeper questions about the personal costs of duty. What does it mean to survive decades of public judgment and emerge as consort to the king? How much of oneself must be buried or rewritten in the process? Tom's account illuminated Camilla as a mother first, a woman who, despite her later position, had once fiercely guarded her children from the madness of royal life. He spoke of a household where the air wasn't always filled with courtly discipline, but was instead alive with wit, sarcasm, and sharp emotional intelligence. It was a household marked by resilience more than tradition, and Camilla, he revealed, played both anchor and sail, steadying her children while pushing them toward a world that often misunderstood her. What made Tom's revelation even more compelling was the timing. In an era where the monarchy is being scrutinized more than ever, with public opinion teetering between loyalty and disillusionment, hearing from someone like Tom, unfiltered, unaligned with royal protocol, was uniquely powerful. He did not speak from a palace balcony, nor did he cloak his words in the language of diplomacy. Instead, he offered a son's truth. And in doing so, he reminded the world that behind every crown sits a person, and behind every title lies a life punctuated by struggle. It's also worth noting the quiet bravery in his decision. Speaking publicly about a royal family member, particularly one so central to the current structure of the monarchy, is rarely done without consequence. Tom must have known the risks. The potential to embarrass, to complicate diplomatic dynamics within the family, or even to trigger backlash from the loyalist corners of the public loomed large. And yet, he spoke. Not for personal gain, not to stoke controversy, but seemingly out of a need to present his mother as she truly is, beyond caricature and curated image. The portrait he painted was nuanced. He did not attempt to absolve Camilla of every criticism, nor did he idealize her into sainthood. Instead, he spoke of contradictions, a woman both tough and tender, Private, yet deeply involved in her children's lives, flawed but enduring, this depth added color to a figure often portrayed in stark black and white. For the first time, many saw Camilla not as a symbol, but as a survivor. Even among those who had come to accept Camilla in her royal role, Tom's testimony stirred deeper reflection. It wasn't just that she had overcome public scrutiny, it was how she had done it, and what that journey had cost her on a personal level. He shared, in effect, the untold story behind the stately grace. The nights of doubt, the moments of private anguish, and the slow, deliberate construction of a public persona strong enough to weather the storm. This disclosure also subtly reframed the image of the royal family itself. For years, the public was offered only glimpses of its inner workings, carefully staged images, formal addresses, choreographed events. Rarely was the curtain lifted from the emotional lives of its members. Tom's candid revelation pierced that veil, offering a vivid reminder that even the most seemingly composed royals navigate terrain marked by insecurity, conflict, and a yearning for normalcy. In a monarchy often accused of being out of touch, this human touch mattered. And then there was the public reaction, a cocktail of surprise, admiration, and for some, even guilt. Guilt for having bought into the earlier vilification, for having reduced a woman's life to a single chapter in a complicated narrative. For others, the story offered validation, that their own struggles, their own need to build resilience in the face of misunderstanding were mirrored in someone once seen as untouchable. Tom's words had done more than just change a perception. They had invited empathy. Camilla, for her part, has long understood the power of silence. Her ability to weather decades of scrutiny without lashing out or defending herself has been both strategic and personal. Silence allowed her to stay composed, but it also allowed others to define her. Tom's revelation disrupted that pattern. For once, the narrative came from within, not from tabloids, not from historians, but from family. And yet, the implications did not end with perception. Within royal circles, Tom's decision to speak opened the door to broader questions about who gets to tell the story of the monarchy. Is it only those within the direct line of succession? Or does the emotional truth of family life also belong to those in its periphery? Children, spouses, siblings? Tom reminded the public that the royal experience is not limited to thrones and tiaras. It extends to the often unseen individuals caught in the monarchy's gravitational pull. There was also an implicit critique woven into his narrative that the institution of royalty, with all its pageantry and privilege, exacts a toll not only on its stars, but also on its satellites. Camilla's journey, as seen through her son's eyes, became a case study in the high emotional costs of public duty. And though she now wears a crown, the path to that coronation was littered with the debris of misunderstanding and loneliness. For many observers, the story also brought into sharper focus the generational contrast within the royal family. Camilla, shaped by an era of stiff upper lips and stoic endurance, had chosen silence as her armor. Tom, representing a newer generational ethos, chose vulnerability and truth-telling. In doing so, he bridged a gap between the past and the present, between myth and reality. Perhaps the most poignant element of Tom's revelation was its subtext, a deep, abiding love for his mother. Not the performative loyalty often seen in public gestures, but a complex, earned love shaped by observation, time, and empathy. He had watched her transform from private citizen to public figure, from divorcee to queen, and he had seen the toll it took. His words then were not just confession or catharsis, they were tribute. What he said also posed an open question to the public. How do we reconcile our fascination with royalty with the humanity of those who bear its weight? Can we admire the ceremony without forgetting the people beneath the crowns? Tom's account asked for no pity, only perspective. And in a media landscape quick to sensationalize, that kind of honesty stood out. The revelation also forced a recalibration of the broader royal narrative. So often the storylines revolve around controversy, lineage, and political tension. But Tom's perspective added a missing dimension, the emotional. The monarchy, for all its structure and symbolism, is made up of people whose private lives are often reshaped, if not outright erased, by public expectation. Camilla's story, as told by her son, was a reminder of that truth. As the dust settled from Tom's disclosure, the conversations it ignited lingered, not because they were scandalous, but because they were necessary. In pulling back the veil on his mother's inner world, Tom invited a more compassionate gaze, and in doing so, he offered a rare and meaningful gift, not just to his mother, but to a public starved for authenticity in a sea of spectacle. Tom Parker Bowles didn't need to speak. He wasn't bound by royal duty, nor was he obligated to defend the crown, but he chose to step forward to tell the world what it had overlooked, that behind the queen stood a woman who had been misunderstood for far too long, and behind that woman stood a son willing to tell the truth, no matter how shocking it might be. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Tom's reveal? What do you expect will happen next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.